Hello there, welcome to what is lesson number 10 in our series on using FluidDesigner for 3D printing to create ceramic and porcelain objects. Today's lesson we're going to show you how you can create a honeycomb mat. So if you start FluidDesigner up, first of all we need to go to Learning Projects, Ceramic and Porcelain Projects, and we're doing lesson number 10. So if we scroll down to 10, it's 10, which is a honeycomb mat. I'm just going to switch on screencast key, so any key presses I make should be displayed here. So this is the object that we're going to create. It's a honeycomb mat. Now it's quite large, the object that we've created here. You don't clearly need to make it this big. You can make it any size that you want within reason. And essentially it's made up of rows and columns. So let's start it off. Well, what we need to do according to the help panel is go to Add Mesh, and it's miscellaneous objects, and it's this command here, a simple honeycomb mesh generator. And there are a number of different parameters that we can change here, but let's first of all just go to View and Zoom to select it to see what we've got. Well, at the moment what we've got is we've got 2 rows and 2 columns, and we want 10 rows and 10 columns. So let's just change the number of rows and see what happens. Well, that's pretty obvious. We've got 1 row, 2 row, 3 rows, 4 rows of 2 columns. So there are two cells across, those are the columns, and we've got 4 rows. Now we want to make this to 10, so that's okay, that's fairly straightforward. So we've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows with 2 rows with 2 columns, 2 cells in each row. So if we change the number of columns, you can see what's happening. It's widening up in the X direction here, and we want a total of 10 columns. Now at the moment that object is still pretty small, but there are a couple of other values that we want to change. So we've actually got the same number of honeycombs in our mesh as the finished object, but as you can see it's a lot smaller at the moment. But there's a couple of other things that we want to change. Well, we want to change the cell diameter. Now at the moment the cell diameter is 1. So I'm going to type it as 2 so you can see what's happening there. And if I type it as 3, as you can see, the whole thing gets bigger. Now the cell diameter is actually the distance from here to here, and we can see that almost if the grid at the moment is in millimeters, so this point here is 1, 2, 3 millimeters across. 3 millimeters across. Now I don't want to go using the interactive ruler at the moment. If I do that, this panel is going to disappear on me, so I'm trying to avoid doing that. So we've not got a perfect view of this size, but that's what the diameter is. Now we want to change this up to 10, so I'm going to enter in the value 10, and as you can see that makes it much bigger now. So there are actually 10 millimeters here across there. Now the other value that we want to change is the edge width. So in other words, we're going to change the thickness of this, and you can see that as we do it here. Okay, it's thickening up the edge, so it's at 1 there, that's the width of the edge. If we change it to 2, as you can see it's much thicker, and we're going to set it at 3. Okay, so this is actually 3 millimeters across there. Okay, so those are all the values that we want to change in that panel. And if we just zoom back, you can see that it's now matching up with the size of the finished object at the bottom. But we haven't got any thickness, we haven't got any depth to this object at the moment. So if we tried to print this, we wouldn't get anything at all. So to give it some thickness, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Properties modifiers, and the modifier that we're going to use is a solidify modifier. And I think we want to set it to be 4 millimeters thickness. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and if we look at this now, you can see that that thickness of 4 is being applied below the grid. Now it's not particularly important whether it's below the grid or above it, but it is worth trying to understand what's happening here. It's the offset is a -1 here. So this is offsetting the thickness from the center, so it's offsetting it downwards. If we type in here +1, you'll see that the thickness goes above the grid. Now it's not actually changing anything. It'll be fundamentally exactly the same object that prints, whether we've got the offset at +1 or -1. We could even put it at 0, and that will just offset it 2 millimeters above, 2 millimeters below, giving us a total thickness. That isn't going to affect the printed object. Okay, so we can set rows and columns. We can change the diameter of it, we can change the thickness of the walls, and then we can use a solidify modifier to add thickness to the finished object. Now to confirm this, what we do need to do as usual in FluidDesigner is to go to Tools, Object, Tools, and convert it to a mesh. And once you do that, that's applied now. And also if we go back to the toolbox panel, you can see we can't change the number of rows and the number of columns, etc. All that is now applied. So what we want to do is delete the original one, so we can do that by X on the keyboard and delete. We need to save the work that we've done today, so as is usual in FluidDesigner, go to File and Save As, and look for the My Projects, Ceramic and Porcelain projects, and we save lesson number 10, the Honeycomb Mat, as a Blender file. Now you can't print Blender files, so what we need to do is, as usual, export it as a wavefront object. We like to export it to the desktop while we do this process, so it's number 10 Honeycomb Mat OBJ file, and then always go to Netfabb Basic and go to Project and Open, and in this case we need to go to the desktop, and it's lesson number 10 Honeycomb Mat. So we just need to analyze this in Netfabb Basic and see if there's any issues with it. So just go to Extras and repair the part. Now Netfabb will triangulate this mesh, so quite a lot of these lines in here will have been generated in Netfabb. If we just move the window across now, it doesn't appear, we don't seem to have any problems at all. There's no border edge or orientation or holes. We've only got one shell, but just run automatic repair and execute it and apply the repair and remove the old part. So we're just triangulating the mesh really here. There are no other issues with this particular object. Sometimes in FluidDesigner, when we've got surfaces like this, we get border edge problems, but not in this particular case. I think probably because we've used the solidify modifier. So if we go to part now and export the part as a wavefront object, export it to the desktop, and it's the lesson number 10 Honeycomb Mat repaired, and we save that file, and that's the printable file format now. Okay, so that's the end of this lesson, the simple Honeycomb Mat. Thank you.